Hello, good evening everybody. Welcome to the Shankly Gates podcast. I'm David Brindle. Joining me tonight, as ever, the regulars, Paul Jones, Kieran Grayson. Good evening, gentlemen. Hope you're both well. We've got plenty to talk about. I know it's an international break, but we've got plenty to talk about. We're going to discuss the ever-amounting amount of injuries. Gomez, Salah, Henderson, Robertson. It's all adding up for Liverpool. We're going to discuss that. We're going to talk about international football as well, which I'm sure is going to be a laugh. We're also going to talk about the talks between FA and UEFA, the FA I should say, and UEFA, about the upcoming Euros, Euro 2020 played in Euro in 2021, which just makes this year even more confusing. We'll also talk about the upcoming Klopp fume that's going to arise from Liverpool's latest fixture scheduling this weekend, or beginning this weekend, and of course we'll look ahead to Leicester at this weekend, which may see Liverpool put out some unfamiliar faces, if you like. So all that is to come, but we do start with the sad news this week that Ray Clement has sadly passed away, an absolute Liverpool legend, and it's never nice to see a hero of the club pass away. Very, very sad news. Paul, you got anything to say about the great Ray Clement?
I think, to be honest, Dave, you've just summed it up, and I think the word legend can get banded around quite easily. Unfortunately, I am not old enough to have had the pleasure of watching Clement play. But the best sort of tribute I can give him is that I respect a lot of the older generation's opinions, and when you ask the question, either who is the best goalkeeper you've seen, or where does Alisson stand in a line of Liverpool goalkeepers, the answer you always get is Ray Clement is always the best. And when you ask about Alisson, the answer I always get is he's the best since Ray. He's the best since Ray Clement. So, that for me tells me everything you need to know in terms of his standing within, the Liverpool support. And 72, it's just no age whatsoever, especially in this day and age. And obviously our thoughts are with Ray's family and friends at this difficult time.
Yeah, mate, a true legend of the club. Like Paul, myself, I'm too young to have ever seen him play or that. I have to listen to many stories about my dad from his times going the game for him. But yeah, an absolute legend. I saw a video got released yesterday of Liverpool playing Tottenham at home, and this is when he'd moved on to play for Tottenham. And the reception he got from the cop was absolutely outstanding. And this was, bear in mind, he was playing for Spurs at the time, so that to me showed how much he was really, thought of in the club. Certainly the best ever. His stats back it up as well. So stats today, obviously the most clean sheets of the club, and over 50% of the games he played in, he kept a clean sheet in as well, which is well, you'd practically unheard of these days. So yeah, I can't say anything more than a true legend of the club. No age at all, just absolute, sadness. He will be missed, and yeah, my thoughts definitely go out to his family.
Yeah, I echo both of your thoughts there. It's obviously very, very sad news, and like yourselves, I'm too young to have seen Ray Clement play live. But that video is one that I was going to mention, Kieran. It's not very often you see an opposing goalkeeper or any former Liverpool player really get an ovation like that. It was quite heartwarming, to be fair. So our thoughts do go with his family, and he'll never be forgotten. There's a lovely tribute to him, isn't he, painted outside the streets, on the streets of Anfield, and very sad news. But yeah, rest in peace, and he'll never be forgotten. A fantastic figure at the club, spoken about with the most of honour. So fair play to him, and God bless. We will move on now. And it's obviously a bit of a sway to come away from such sad news, but we'll try and kick on. We've got a really piling list of injuries at the moment. Obviously, the big news last week was Joe Gomez being ruled out. That was heartbreaking enough. But this week, we've now had Mohamed Salah contract coronavirus. Jordan Henderson, we believe, has picked up an injury. We believe Andy Robertson has got a hamstring issue. I think there's a few more. I don't know. I'm losing the will to live with the amount of injuries that Liverpool are getting at the moment. Kieran, what's the main issue for you here? Is it a case of player safety, or is it a case of just, is it a scheduling matter with too many games being played, or is it just, should we be playing international football at this stage?
I think it's hard to actually pin down if there's one main cause of it. I mean, we are going through extraordinary times. Everyone's schedules off and all that. We played during June and July, so, and then obviously we were starting the season late as we did. A lot of games need to be played to be playing catch up and all that. So I think there are a lot of football going on at the minute, and then you throw into this, we've had, I think, 2 international breaks now. So I do think there is a bit too much going on. I think obviously you always prioritise games in the league, so they're never going to stop. But I think particularly now, into how they call the Nations League, but to me, there's still friendlies. Really, I don't really think they should be taking place personally. Because the obviously Scotland qualify for the Euros. I can understand them taking place because they do need to sort that. But for me, these games in the Nations League and international friendlies, for me, I just think it's a bit too far. You can always schedule them for a different time. It's not just our club. I think there's quite a few clubs I can name in this country with quite a few injuries at the minute. So it's not just that we do seem to be badly affected at the minute, but there are plenty of clubs who are suffering with many injuries. So yeah, I think if I were to choose one, even though it's hard to put your finger on it, I would probably say the international friendlies, as they were at the minute, could be the cause of it.
Paul, what are you making of it all? What are you pointing at as the sole, maybe not the sole issue, but one of the main contributing factors for all these injuries?
I mean, I think that the reason that these games are going ahead is one simple reason, and that's money. Money talks, and as you've mentioned about the Nations League, that was brought in to replace friendlies. For me, like Kieran, I agree that things such as the sort of playoffs to qualify for what is now Euro 2021, I appreciate that they can go ahead. But a glorified friendly renamed as a Nations League, there's only one reason that's going ahead, and that is for financial reasons. For me, I think the players are being used as rabbits, basically, testing rabbits, and they're being stretched to beyond the limit. And it's not just Liverpool that have got injuries. I think you've got to look, Nathan Ake got a serious injury for Holland. There's a few other injuries which have been discussed previous in the likes of Jordan Henderson, potentially Andy Robertson, in from the Liverpool camp. So for me, it's just these players, and I hear the sort of same old arguments of, they're on £200,000 a week and they should be able to do this and should be able to do that. They might be on £200,000 a week, but they're not robots. They're human beings, and the human body can only take so much. And for me, they've tried to squeeze far too many in terms of games. In terms of coronavirus, which Bright Spark decided that it'd be a good idea to send players from all around the world, jetting off on aeroplanes to other places all around the world, and think that a global pandemic and a global virus wasn't going to spread. I just don't get what the whole thinking behind is, other than financial gain. So for me, a glorified friendly should have been stopped, and just let the what's the word I'm looking for? The vital games in terms of the qualifiers go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. The issue that I've got with it is that exactly. The only reason these friendlies are going ahead, and as you say, the Nations League basically is a glorified friendly competition. That's the only reason they're going ahead is because of the money, because of the amount of sponsors that pour money into the likes of UEFA and things like that. And I just think, now you see, with coronavirus, I obviously I think it's a bad idea to be travelling, all around the world, spreading with different people and all that. It's a bad idea. In terms of Salah, now for me, I've seen footage of him going to his brother's wedding, dancing around on a dance floor, and I kind of think, well, you have only got yourself to blame for getting coronavirus, because you know you're not supposed to spread, you're not supposed to mingle with people, you're supposed to keep your distance, and he should have thought that through. I'm not saying he shouldn't have gone to his brother's wedding, but what I'm saying is he should have been a bit more clever than to go on a dance floor and I mean, there was, maybe not 100 people, maybe something like 50 to 70 people on the dance floor there with him, and you just, you're asking for trouble when you do stuff like that. With the other injuries, with the likes of Henderson and Robertson, when you start getting these soft tissue injuries, that's when it's through overplaying, and that's that's a scheduling issue, and we're going to come to scheduling in a minute, because Mr. Klopp's going to be very unhappy. But yeah, I do get your point. I think this was pretty much, apart from Scotland, a pointless international break. And obviously we've got to have international breaks because we all love the World Cup and we all love the Euros, and we're going to come to the Euros in a minute. But what is the alternative to this? Is there a better way, Paul, than to have, this sort of break where we've had 2 weeks? Because it just seems to be a lose-lose all round. The players don't get a break. They're still playing. They've still got to go and play for the countries in games that, are questionably, they're questionable whether they should be playing them or not. The fans don't get anything from it because the quality of football in international games sometimes can be woeful. What is the alternative in your mind?
I think, just to, before I do give you the answer to that, I think we also need to look as well at a standard international break has been 2 games. Why are they squeezing 3 into the last couple? They're squeezing 3 games into 2 weeks when in an already saturated calendar. But in answer to your question, for me, just scrap the Nations League for this one, and I get it that it's contractual and there's sort of backdoor routes into competitions and things, but people are paid big money to think of these formats in terms of how these competitions and how you qualify for them. So you know what, go and earn your money and go and think of another route into these competitions, or pay a bit of compensation and just say, unfortunately, those four doors for your groups A, B, C, and D out of the Nations League on this occasion are closed. And we'll give you a bit of compensation, and you can try again in 2 years' time. It's a global pandemic. Not everybody is going to benefit from a global pandemic, and at the moment, the only people that are benefiting is the finances. That's it. As you say, the players aren't, the supporters aren't. The managers aren't, the coaches. There's nobody benefiting other than the people who are collecting the checks, basically.
Absolutely. So what is your alternative then, Paul? What would you rather see happen then?
No Nations League. Just get rid of the Nations League. There's no need for it at the moment. It's glorified friendlies. And instead of having, international weekends that we've had over the last couple of months, one in October, one in November, what we could have done is potentially spread out our domestic calendar a bit more. And that's not just in England. I'm guessing La Liga, Serie A, Liga ERN, all them would be welcome. Bundesliga as well, of the additional couple of weeks, where instead of having games, sort of Tuesday, Saturday, as an example, for sort of 40 odd weeks of the season, which is what it's turning out to be, you could have given a couple of midweeks off, especially for those in Europe, like ourselves, like Manchester City, Manchester United, and so on, who literally are, looking like they're going to qualify through the Champions League group stages and ending up, probably playing up towards 50, 60 games in a season, condensed into probably 2 or 3 months less than it normally would take. So for me, just scrap the Nations League. It's never going to happen because of, contractual issues and stuff, but it's just an added sort of hindrance that players, fans, and the sport doesn't need.
Okay. Kieran, what are your thoughts, mate, on this international break and what you'd like to see happen?
I think certainly with the Nations League in Europe anyway, just pause it. Like, it can easily be restarted at some point next year when, things have been gotten a grip of. Before this week, they were already at least halfway through or 2/3 through, so they've only had to have caught up on 1 or 2 games. So to me, I didn't see any reason why. Sorry guys, it can't happen at the minute. But we'll restart it sometime next year. The only other issue is obviously we've got international. It's not just Europe, but international players going all across the globe. Like Salah, obviously going to Egypt. I think that was African Cup of Nations qualifiers. So for those sort of games, that takes the same sort of like priority as like the qualifying for the Euros here. I'm not sure about this. I know obviously Bobby played for Brazil and Takumi Minamino played for Japan. I'm not sure if they were friendlies or not, but if they were qualifying for things like, I don't know, the Copa America or wherever the Asian version is, then I think that does probably fall under the same, they have every right to play for the country in a competition that'll matter to them. So I don't know them too. I don't know really the European. That's probably the one I'd follow the most. So for that, yeah, I'd just pause the Nations League at the minute and just give it 6 months. So I didn't really see any reason why they couldn't do that. And then use them 2 games as, friendlies, warm-ups for these Euros when they happen next summer.
Okay, so I was thinking a bit more big picture here. So I totally agree that the Nations League should have probably been canned. But in terms of going forward, I think I'm going to save international football here. I'm going to save it because we all love the Euros and we all love the the World Cup, obviously. So why don't we, instead of having a break in October and a break in November and a break in March, throw it all in the summer. Still give them time off after the season. Throw it into the summer where you would a World Cup. And make them play them games all together. So, for example, the Nations League, it's like a tournament. It's like a World Cup or a Euros. In that summer where we have no football, you throw it all into that summer. And you just play there. And they maybe don't play 6 games in the group. Maybe they just play 3 games in the group like you would in the World Cup or the Euros. And you go from there. Because, obviously, the issue is that the international break this time has obviously caused issues with health and, player welfare. But it's not that interesting anyway. Pre-coronavirus, the international break, everybody always goes, oh, the international break. So throw it all in the summer where there's no football. Have a month, give them time off after the season. Have a month where that's where the international football gets played and then move it on. Go back to the season again. I just think you get more time in the season to play, the games, and you'd have more time off. I don't know. I think I've saved international football there, but I might be wrong. You got any disagreements there, Paul? You look like you're about to disagree with me.
No. I'm just working out in my head. That's and the more I work out, the more I think it might not be a bad shout. So in theory, what you're saying is, forget COVID for a second. And it obviously in even number years there is a tournament, whether that be Euro 2020 as it should have been, or World Cup 2022, and so on and so forth. So what you're saying is in the odd number years, so 2021, 2023, 2025, and so on, that you would still have in theory a tournament, but it would be a qualifying tournament.
Basically, yeah.
So for example, if there was no COVID, you'd have 2021 Summit. What you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
That's the only issue with it.
What I suppose what you're trying to say then, David, is if you sort of unify it, because we all know international weekends are unified across the world. When Europe has a break, AFCON has a break, South America, everybody plays international football at the same time. So what you're saying is sort of unify it so that you're right across the board in the league seasons will go in the October, November and March breaks. That would still be a domestic calendar game, and potentially then you would have, say, I don't know, June and July, whatever it is, July, whatever, for 1 month every year. They, 1 year would be Euro 2020, AFCON 2020, Copa America 2020, all at the same time potentially. And then 2021, it would be the qualifiers for the World Cup in 2022, all at the same time, whether that be in Asia, South America, Europe, whatever. And to be fair, it sounds like a good idea. Whether it would be feasible,
it's probably not doable now that you've put it like that. To be fair, it's probably not doable.
But for me, I agree with you that I think something has got to be done about international football. For me, and I think managers are the same. They just find it more of a hindrance than anything. And what you find yourself, whether it be manager, coach, player, supporter, is you find yourself literally sat there with your fingers crossed for 2 weeks, hoping your squad comes back as fit and as healthy as possible.
You got anything to add there, Kieran?
No, not really. Just not more to add there.
Fair enough, mate. So let's talk more about international football then, because there's talks today that the FA and UEFA are holding preliminary discussions about the Euros coming to the UK. So, I mean, come to you, Kieran. What are you thinking on that? Obviously, the tournament was supposed to go around the country. So, what are you thinking on that?
I think it makes sense, certainly during the COVID times, that they do pick just one country to host all the games. Whether this is the right country for it, I don't know, because I just think this. You don't know where the situation is going to be in June anyway, but I just think this country is quite a few steps behind in the whole coronavirus scheme. There's certainly other countries around Europe, when you watch the European games, where there's already fans back in stadiums. We're not going to manage that till well gone the new year. So it does open up the argument of will we be fit enough to host it? We've certainly got the stadiums. That's not the problem. The problem will be whether the country will actually be fit and ready to host such a tournament. So I agree with they should be picking one country to host it. Whether this is the right country or not, I just don't know.
I think it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because I suppose, and I agree with what Kieran's saying, you've got to look at whether supporters are going to be allowed. And I think in this country, we need to concentrate on that first, and getting supporters back into our domestic fixtures. And then there's the whole sort of question mark around, if it is in one country, what country is it going to be in? And do you allow supporters from other countries to travel into that country? If it's Europe-wide, are you going to allow supporters of the teams who are playing to travel to the countries that they're playing in? So, for example, I know Scotland qualified, and obviously one of their games is at Wembley against England. So, for me, if supporters are allowed in, I couldn't see the issue of having, England and Scotland supporters. But actually, I mean, I don't know, you'll have to excuse me, but I've seen there's games in Azerbaijan, there's games in Rome. And if supporters are then having to travel from Rome to Spain, for example, is that going to spread a virus? So, there is that you've got to look at. But again, if these same supporters are travelling from Rome to support Italy, who are playing in England, and it's the same people, are they still going to spread the virus, but only this time spread it within one country rather than 5 or 6? For me, I don't think it's so much matters what you do, because with the virus, if you allow people to move around who carry the virus, they will spread it. And I think we've got to wait until potentially around Easter time, until we know what's happening domestically a lot more, before any decision like that could be made.
What do you both make of the news that you could potentially be having to have a vaccine or have a health passport, a digital health passport, in order to go to games of football, concerts? What do you think about that?
Do you want to go on that one first, Kieran?
No, not particularly. Well, obviously it's good news that they're trying to find a vaccine for all this, and well, for me, I'll be, as soon as it becomes available, I'll be, hoping to, be one of the first to get it. But yeah, I understand the logic behind it. But obviously, you'll have, I won't go into, the anti-vaxxers and all that. But I think it'd be a decent move, to be honest. Where people probably moan about it, but I wouldn't see the issue with it personally.
Just quickly, Paul, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I understand the reason behind it in terms of, obviously, if you go into a venue that there's going to be 50,000 people, then you want to make it as safe as you can. But again, my question, and I've asked this previously, is where do you draw the line? Are we going to then every winter make people carry a health passport for the standard flu vaccine in case they pass flu along, because people can die from flu? Are we going to make sure that they've had the TB in school? If they're school children, and where do we draw the line? And I appreciate that coronavirus is an absolute, nightmare of a scenario at the moment for everybody involved. But we need to be careful how far we go. If they ask me to have it and have a passport, absolutely, I will have it. If that means that I can go to concerts, football matches, horse racing, whatever that may be that people want to go and watch, absolutely. But we've just got to be careful that we don't end up having to have, a tick list of every vaccine that we've had ever within our lives.
Yeah, it's interesting that how it's going to be handled, because obviously you seem to read different things all the time of what's going to happen. It's going to be this, it's going to be that, it's going to be a quick 15-minute test, etc. So I think we're best leaving that one for another day. One thing we won't leave for another day is we're going to prepare for Klopp to go crazy when he speaks to the media this week. A lot of talking last week about scheduling Manchester United, particularly in the Champions League on Wednesday, in the first game back in the Premier League, an early kick-off at Everton, 12:30. Well, surprise, surprise, Liverpool have got a late game Sunday against Leicester, 7:15 kick-off. They then face Atalanta, which, the only godsend is they're at home. But then they've got the early game on Saturday, 12:30, and it's a trip to Brighton. So, making up for the fact they're at home in the Champions League by giving them a long journey down to Brighton. How mad is Klopp going to be, Paul, when he speaks to the media?
Well, I mean, you've seen how mad he was last week, and it wasn't Liverpool, that he was sort of talking about. It was arch rivals Manchester United, and also Tottenham with the same situation. They were playing on Thursday night and had a game early on the Sunday. And for me, it's just, they don't care. Again, it goes back to what we discussed around international fixtures and international friendlies and why they're being played. It's all about money. Now, at this time with coronavirus and things, they've got a chance to make a change, and every game is on television. So why does it have to be the early one on Saturday? Why can't it be the 5:30 on Saturday? If they want Liverpool to play if they want Liverpool to play at 5:30 on a Saturday, that's absolutely fine. The Saturday is not a problem as such, but you're asking somebody, luckily enough, we're at home this week, but it is going to come where we're going to be away in somewhere, I mean, even if you look at sort of our longest flight, I'm guessing in this group would be Denmark, possibly, potentially even Italy. Italy may even be a bit longer than Denmark. So, if you're looking at flights and things, by the time you've played the game on Wednesday night and then you get your flight home, you're probably not getting into bed till, 3-4 in the morning, Thursday morning. You get your sleep, you go to train Thursday night, and then by Friday you're back on the airplane back down to Brighton Saturday. So, as I say, I appreciate we're at home this time, but it is going to come into play where we've got a trip away on a Wednesday night and we end up 12:30 on a Saturday, the following weekend. And for me, it is just not acceptable. It goes exactly back to what we were saying about international football. These players are being treated as, they're being treated as robots, and they're not robots. They are humans. And for me, it is just not acceptable.
Kieran, quickly, what are your thoughts on Klopp then? What are we expecting from his press conference?
Yeah, I think he is going to be fuming. I mean, he's never one to hold back on his words anyway. I mean, yeah, the scheduling it is poor. It is. I mean, there's no reason why they can't make it later or the day after. It's all just done for television rights and all that. I mean, I'd have to, from fairness point of view, I'd have to have a look and see if other teams are affected badly or not. I've not seen what time people are going to put for other games. So, from our point of view, yeah, it's disappointing, and I think Klopp is going to go heavy in on it. It's
going to make interesting watching on Friday afternoon, if it's still Friday afternoon when he speaks. He is not going to be happy. He's going to be very unhappy. As you say, everyone spoke about Manchester United getting this treatment last week, and they've just shown, the powers that be have just shown they do not care. They just want to make money. That's all they're interested in. And especially when we've talked about all the injuries that are going on, they don't care. Let's look ahead to Leicester then, because, I mean, this one might end up on LFC TV with the amount of under-23s that might be getting played at this rate. I can't tell you what Paul wants to call this podcast beforehand, but let's just say it was quite amusing. So, Paul, I will come to you. What sort of team can we expect? Because, you know, the amount of injuries that are out, and obviously you've already got issues at centre-half. I mean, is Joel Matip going to be fit? Are you comfortable with Nat Phillips and Rhys Williams at centre-half? Who else are you expecting to come in? What are you expecting from the team?
I don't think you'll see either of them, to be honest with you, at the start of the game. I think the centre-half pairing will probably be Joel Matip and potentially Fabinho, if he's going to be fit. If not, I don't know whether we'll drop in another midfielder, maybe somebody like Jordan Henderson. I don't know. I just think it's too big a game, and this is no disrespect to Phillips or Williams. I think it's too big a game to put them in. You know, Jamie Vardy is one of the most clever forwards you'll see in the league. They run at you with pace. And for me, I just think he's going to go with older heads in there rather than younger heads. So I think you'll probably see a bit of a stronger lineup than we're all expecting with the doom and gloom that of the news that keeps coming out over the last few days.
Kieran, what about you, mate? What are you looking ahead to?
Yeah, I mean, well, we've got plenty of spaces to fill. I mean, not just centre-back. We've got both full-backs potentially out. That's obviously more news on Robertson. Henderson might be out. So, yeah, we have to really use the squad players. I mean, I will speak a little bit on the Leicester City point of view. They've got a few out as well. A few of their main defenders are out as well. Castagna, Soyuncu, Ricardo Pereira. So it might be a case that both teams' first-choice defences are pretty much non-existent. So there could be an even contest. And I'm not going into it with doom and gloom. So I think the 11 that we put on the pitch, in my mind, should still be good enough to win that game. So it'll be obviously interesting. There'll be a lot of people filling in places. James Milner could end up anywhere, probably left back. Probably Neco Williams might come into the side. So it's going to be a very, very strange one, but again, one that I'm looking forward to see how it plays out.
Could finish 5-4, couldn't it?
Certainly won't finish 0-0 by the sound of things. So okay, speaking of which, let's go for predictions then. Just quickly, let's wrap up. Paul, score prediction.
Well, I'm going to go with the what I've just said. I don't know who's going to win, but I think it's going to be 4-3 either way.
Didn't you just say 5-4?
Well, I've gone 4-3 now. I've bottled it a little bit.
Okay. Come on. Kieran?
I'll go for some irony. I'll say the Reds will win 7-2.
7-2? Oof.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I think... I don't know. I think maybe 3-1 Liverpool. And I do expect Rhys Williams and or Nat Phillips to start at centre half. I've got no faith in Joel Matip and Fabinho being fit. Probably be wrong about that. But yeah, I think we're all right in terms of the kids coming through. There's some good kids there. I've got no qualms about Neco Williams at right back. Curtis Jones centre mid, no issues. So that brings us to the end of this week's podcast. We've covered pretty much everything there. Thank you very much for your time as ever, gentlemen. And
thank you.
We will catch you all again next. I can't remember what day it was next week. It was Tuesday, I think. Next Tuesday to talk about Leicester and look ahead to Atalanta. Thanks for joining us. See you soon.